Today we are going to be looking at what I consider to be the best movies released in 2015. The reason I like to wait a couple months before making these videos is that there are a lot of really great smaller movies or really great foreign movies that may not have been available to watch in December of 2015 or at any point during that year, or maybe just simply weren't on my radar. So over the past few months I've watched or rewatched about 62 movies that had their official release dates in 2015 in order to make the best list that I could, and a lot of these movies were just not available to watch during the time when most people make their best of the year lists. I also wanted to give it a few months to let any recency bias die off, to be able to rewatch all these movies to stack rank them as objectively as possible. Kicking off our list at number 13 is The Hateful Eight. This is a movie that really started to grow on me. Upon my first watch, I liked it, but wasn't really in love with it. But after seeing it a few more times and knowing what to expect, it really started to grow on me. This is an extremely well-made movie, and seeing as the majority of it is dialogue only, shows how competent of a filmmaker Quentin Tarantino is. The performances are all great, it looks incredible, and has one of the best soundtracks of the entire year. I've already made my dissection of this movie, so click on the box on screen right now if you're interested in seeing that.
One of them fellas is not what he says he is.
What is he?
At number 12 is Assassin. It's a Chinese film about an assassin who accepts a mission to kill a corrupt politician in the mid-1600s rural China. It's a movie about self-discovery, abuse, and power, and these themes are perfectly shown off by some of the best cinematography of the year and some surprisingly great performances. The great script isn't lost in translation, however, this is not a movie for everyone. It's a very slow burn, and a lot of this movie acts as a homage to Asian cinema of the 1950s and 60s. So if you're not familiar with this era of cinema, you may not be able to appreciate this movie as someone who is a big fan of it. However, from beginning to end, this film is very enjoyable, and I would highly recommend it if you already have an interest in this particular genre, then this movie will speak to you.
如今剑术已成。
At number 11 brings us to Carol, one of the best love stories out there, and one of the most human movies I've seen in a very long time. What Todd Haynes does so well as a director is helping the audience feel like they're invested in the story. This is a movie that makes you feel like you are a part of the characters' lives, and the incredible performances by the two lead actresses makes that go even further. The subject matter is also very impressive. There have been a lot of really great movies about homosexual love, but what this does is transport it to a time, in a relative recent time, and see how this is viewed by society. All aspects of this movie are very good, and if you have missed it, make sure you go check it out.
Would you like to come visit me this Sunday? Yes.
Number 10 is Beasts of No Nation, and this is a movie with an incredible narrative that really makes the viewers form their own opinion about an issue that most would not even like to think about. Looking at this movie can make you be aware of these horrible events that are happening, but it never feels preachy or never vilifies the audience. It instead tells a story the way that it should be told. The movie allows the audience to make up their own opinion, and that, mixed with the great performances, incredible cinematography, writing, and direction, makes this one of the best movies released in this year.
We have been defending ourselves against the killings and rapings of our own people from the PLF and now from the NRC junta.
At number 9 is Mad Max Fury Road. This is a movie that I really loved. It's a fun time, the movie is incredibly well made, hence it being on this list, but it isn't the cinematic wonder or the biggest achievement in technology since the moon landing like some people make it out to be. It instead is a very good action movie. I already made a dissection on certain aspects of this movie, and I'm going to leave a link to that on screen right now. This movie is a lot of fun from its opening scene to its epic conclusion. It's thoughtful, it's surprisingly heartfelt, and is a very good movie that I would recommend checking out if you have somehow missed it. At number 8 is Gangs of Wasseypur, an Indian crime epic with an emphasis on epic. This is a two-part story that totals 5.5 hours, and it's because it takes time to develop different generations of family, friendships, and enemies. And that payoff is worth it, as you see these small changes that have been happening earlier on form large consequences later in the film. On a technical level, this film is fantastic. The emotional tale is inspiring and heart-wrenching, does a great job at building an environment and putting characters in this world.
बस दो नस्ल के होते हैं एक होते हैं हरामी और दूसरे बेवकूफ
And at number 7 we have Steve Jobs. Above all else, what I love about this movie is its structure. Despite it following a very standard 3-act structure, all 3 of these acts are able to help show context clues to different parts of Steve Jobs' life, and each of these offer insight into small character changes that happen in between the years. In terms of structure, this movie is great, but even more so, that is the incredible dialogue of Aaron Sorkin. I don't want this to turn into me complaining about the Oscars, but the fact that this wasn't nominated for an Oscar is ridiculous. In addition, the performances were great, and all around, this is a movie that everybody should watch.
Jobs insists, I'm quoting,
didn't invent math.
28% of the male population of the United States could be the father.
I wasn't saying you slept with 28% of American men.
Clocking in at number 6 is The Look of Silence. This is far and away the best documentary that came out in 2015, which was a year of some pretty good documentaries, but this is the only one I would call great. This is a follow-up or a different perspective on the events following a mass genocide in Indonesia that the film's director, Joshua Oppenheimer, showed the events of in his previous documentary, The Act of Killing, another great one. What I love so much about his directing style is how he can show these terrible and unimaginable events and does it with such care and such compassion. These are movies that look incredible, but they also teach lessons about morality and ask you to look closer at events and try and understand more than just one view about it. It's a heartbreaking documentary, but it's one of the best that I have ever seen, and if you have not, then make sure that you see it because you are truly missing out.
Tidak, saya menganggap itu tidak besar.
Bagaimana mungkin tidak besar? 1 juta orang dibunuh atau lebih.
Itulah dia politik.
Next at number 5 is Spotlight. Another fantastic story, but this time, instead of being as stylized as our last film, this film's focus is purely on the emotional side of storytelling, as the film's director, Tom McCarthy, is able to tell one of the most powerful and thought-provoking films over the past few decades. Every scene adds an additional layer to the film, and every moment makes the audience question the morals of business as they watch an emotional tale of deception and one that asks questions about morality. It takes a look at the people who were able to overcome obstacles and do their best to try and overcome all odds. It of course won Best Picture at the Oscars, and again, you're missing out if you have not seen this movie.
If we don't rush to print, somebody else is gonna find these letters and butcher this story. Joe Quimby from the Herald was at the freaking courthouse.
Number 4 brings us to Sicario, the most intense movie of the year and one of the best looking movies of the year. This movie is chock full of greatness, from the direction, acting, and the cinematography should speak for itself. I also think that this movie has a really great yet simple story to it, yet where I find this film exceeds the most is really the understory, which explores the dehumanizing effects of the war on drugs. I've already looked closer at this element in a previous dissection, which I'll leave a link to on screen right now. At number 3 is Son of Saul, which is a very intense and incredibly moving and emotional Holocaust drama. This movie is absolutely incredible, from minute 1 to the ending credits. This is a brutally honest look at the Holocaust, and despite the overarching story having been told in other films, this unique look at a particular story that questions faith and tries to look at life outside of the Holocaust. It's a movie that will probably make you cry, but undeniably is an incredible look at a terrible event. And this movie is able to draw connections with the Holocaust and some modern day events that really make you question how the world is going. In addition, it's a technical marvel, and if you've missed this movie, then by all means, you should check it out. At number 2, we have The Revenant. There's a lot to say about this movie. Most every aspect of this film is phenomenal. You could start by looking at the all-star performances. You could focus in on the incredible visuals, the symbolism, and the hallucinations. But to wrap it up in all in one sentence, you can say that this movie is a masterpiece. It explores humanity, faith, and hope. And it looks at the essence of what drives somebody and how far somebody will go for the people that they love. It's an excellent character study, a phenomenally well-made film, and one that I will be talking about a little bit closer in the next few weeks. Until then, make sure that you've seen this movie. And at number 1 is Anomalisa. At first, there was somewhat of a toss-up between this being number 1 or 2, but after rewatching it, there should be no question. Anomalisa is one of the best movies ever made. It's simple, it's sweet, it's to the point, and now, the 3 different times that I have seen it, each movie has provoked a different thought and a different feeling that has stayed with me, which really shows the mark of a talented filmmaker. It's been a constant thought in the back of my head ever since I first saw it, and the more that I watch it, the more I'm able to appreciate it. I love the use of puppets, and I love the connotations and denotations that these puppets create. It's one of the best written movies out there, and really serves to show that Charlie Kaufman is in a league of his own. The movie structure is great, and all around, most every aspect of this film is perfect, and I don't say that very often. This is another movie I will be looking at in the near future, so make sure you stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. As I mentioned earlier, this is my subjective list on what I think is objectively the best movies released in 2015. Release dates can be a little bit tricky, so if I missed a movie that you might have expected me to talk about, it might be in my 2014 list, which there is a link to on screen right now. Or we could simply have different tastes in films. Either option is great with me, and I hope the same is true with you. So drop a comment and tell me what your favorite movie of 2015 was, and make sure you join me next week when we go back to look at the Godfather trilogy. That video is going to be on the right of the screen, and on the left is my last video about Alien. Make sure you check that out if you haven't seen it, and as always, thank you so much for watching.